Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We are fortunate to have a man who is entangled from top to bottom with that Magic City Classic by way of the Alabama A&M Bulldogs, and that's none other than Brother Mo Carter. How you doing today, my man?
Doing well, Dr. Prince, doing well. It's glad to catch up with you, man. I know it's been a while, but clearly we both have jobs, and we've apparently been pretty busy.
Pretty busy, and if you're a Panther fan, you're anxious to get back into the grind. You know, that bye week after that devastating loss to Houston Christian. So I said I wasn't going to say that anymore this week, but oh well, it's out the bag now. So it's about going forward, man, and taking care of business. Plus, we got a little bulletin board inspiration by way of Coach Simmons. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Well, people hear about the Magic City Classic. They even witness it. But you being in the belly of this thing, just how magical is this Magic City Classic? We know this a rival game, but give us some of the insights of what exactly is building up to this week's game.
Okay, well, I want to add one other thing. I know a lot of people know me from my work here in Huntsville because I've been here now 7 years. But prior to that, I was in Montgomery covering Alabama State and actually doing play-by-play for them as well for 2 of those 3 years. So I've literally been on all sides of it. And when I say one of the things that really, really makes it special from a media standpoint is that the fan bases that you cover, they make sure that you're on the right side of things when it comes to either covering the Hornets or covering the Bulldogs with that. But as far as, this year's game go, I mean, clearly compared to last year, you still have a situation where, the teams are in the running. Clearly, they both need some help, but you still do have teams in the running for sure. I mean, Alabama A&M, they're still in the running, especially after their big victory over Grambling and going into that bye week. And then Alabama State, they're a little bit on the outside looking in, but with some help, the season isn't over really for either team. Now, with a loss, it basically will be, you're running in the SWAC East Division will probably be over. But I'll also say this too: Alabama A&M and Alabama State both had big road victories before their bye week going into this game. Alabama A&M beat Grambling for their homecoming, and Alabama State beat Jackson State for their homecoming. So clearly, tough road places to even get a W, and both teams were able to do that. And now they're going to try to come out and be healthy and literally play the game of their lives that they need to do because, one, it's a rivalry game, and 2, because of the situations that still lie in front of them.
No doubt about it. And when you made those references, A&M, in my opinion, would have a slight inside advantage on that inside lane due to the fact they have yet to play FAMU. So if they could win this game and for some unknown reason FAMU stumbles, man, you could have a very interesting few weeks remaining for this SWAC East title.
Absolutely. For Alabama A&M's sake, when it comes to Florida A&M, they need Florida A&M to lose 2 of their 3 remaining SWAC contests. Those remaining SWAC contests are Prairie View this upcoming week, which, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that's Florida A&M's homecoming. Then they come to Huntsville. Okay. Then Florida A&M comes to Huntsville next weekend to take on Alabama A&M. They have a non-conference game, and then they'll wrap things up with Bethune-Cookman in the annual Florida Classic. So if Alabama A&M can be one of those 2 wins, they'll just need an additional win to potentially force a 3-team tiebreaker in results of if, Jackson State were to win out, and then we get into the 3-team tiebreaker stuff, and I'm going to need Andrew Roberts to start sending those emails out and letting us know what's going on with that. But that's Alabama A&M's really best chance of really winning the East. If Florida A&M definitely loses 2 of their 3, which includes a game against Alabama A&M next weekend. But first things first, they've got to handle business against the bitter arch rival in Alabama State.
Yes, sir. So the bottom line is A&M just needs to win out and let the chips fall where they may, right?
Correct. They definitely do need to win out, and their season is still in front of them for the most part. So Coach Maynard will probably say it best. They need to handle their business, then they need a little help. But if they don't handle their business, it don't matter on the help.
Yes, sir. And don't forget that. Woo!
I'll tell you this. If you get to hearing Coach Maynard saying that again, then it's gonna be a rough day for some other folks. I'll tell you that.
I know that's right. Well, look, here's something that's always been puzzling about a Connell Maynard offense. You never really know what to expect because it's almost like a hybrid. They just have a collaboration of all different sets and looks, so you never really know what to actually prepare for those teams, right?
Correct, and then it makes it really unique when you're playing Alabama A&M and scheming. I mean, clearly the season started off. They had Xavier Langford as a starter, and then they also had Cornelius Quad Brown as the backup. Quincy Casey, the former Jackson State standout, he was actually third, but then Quad Brown apparently is away from the team. That's the statement I'm going to put right now. He's away from the team. So because of that, Xavier gets hurt in pregame warmups against Southern. Pregame warmups. So Quincy Casey thrown into the fire. He did the best he could or whatever. But I mean, who would have thought? Oh, I'm the number 3 quarterback going into the week, and boom, all of a sudden I'm starting on Saturday. And they made a few mistakes, and Southern was able to capitalize it on a much-needed win for really both teams at that time. But then Quincy Casey came back. He reassembled himself, got a big win against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then got another big win against Tuskegee, on HBCU Go, which was their homecoming game. But then they struggled early against Jackson. Xavier Langford comes back in, probably not 100%, but, he did what he could to try to make that game a little bit more manageable against Jackson State. And then they go on the road last week, and, the guy rushing for almost 200 yards. Literally, a quarterback almost rushing for 200 yards, and literally all they were doing were either running pitch, toss, or read option stuff for him, and Grambling's defense just had no answer in that. So clearly, if you're Alabama State with a defensive-minded coach like Coach Eddie Robinson, no relation to Grambling Eddie Robinson, I'm
right
to get that, but it's crazy how like people still think that or whatever in that sense. But Coach Eddie Robinson, SWAC Hall of Famer, Super Bowl participant, played linebacker for a number of years. He's a defensive-minded coach. So because he's a defensive-minded coach, for sure he has been looking at those tapes and getting with his defensive coordinator to be like, all right, we got to prepare for all stops against this Alabama A&M squad that they'll face on Saturday.
No doubt about it. And don't forget, he is SWAC. So we got to make sure we enunciate and punctuate that one. Now, with this particular matchup, we know anything goes in a rival. But from Mo Carter's vantage point, what does A&M need to have success this coming weekend?
I think Alabama A&M really needs to do what they did against Grambling. They need to come out strong on offense and really let Alabama State know that this is our game. We want to take over this game. That's what they did against Grambling. Grambling made some first-half adjustments, but they made no second-half adjustments, and that's how Alabama A&M really, really ran away from the Tigers and spoiled their homecoming. So I really think they need to do that, plus this improving defense that Alabama A&M continues to have week in and week out. And when I'm talking about improving, I'm talking about in major categories, they're ranked 4th, 5th, or 6th, which is way better than what we used to see Alabama A&M's defense in previous years. If they can come out and get some turnovers and really put Alabama State in some unpredictable positions that they aren't accustomed to, then I think it definitely could be in the favor of Alabama A&M early on to get that momentum. Now, speaking from that, they need to continue to ride their momentum because in the Magic City Classic, anything can happen, anything goes, and you always got to throw the records out.
No doubt about it. We're talking with Mo Carter right now, coverage provider for the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. As he stated earlier, been on both sides of the fence. But a lot of people may not be aware, Mo, and we're going to talk a little bit about the SWAC as a whole now, if you don't mind. you are a former Southern Jag football player. I guess you'll never be a former. You'll always be a Jag football player. But how often do you find yourself peeking over there towards the west, my man?
Oh, I mean, clearly, I peek over to the west enough, especially when it comes to my alma mater. And I mean, and of course, a big thank you to Dr. Charles McClellan for getting these media rights things all squared away to where we have more ESPN Plus games. And if I just happen to be at one game, I can pull out my phone and, kind of look over and be like, okay, cool, that's going on. Or if I can't watch it the way I want to watch it, once I get home on a Saturday night and, the game's on replay or something, or I can just go to my ESPN app and rewatch it. Yeah, clearly I'm checking out what's going on, with my Jags. And, somehow, somewhere, there's some family members of mine that decided they wanted to go to Lincoln Parish in North Louisiana. So, I just happened to see some grand. Oh, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I always throw that at them. But, so I get a chance to, check out some things with Ram. And then with me working in media, I used to work for WAFB in Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. So, I'll see their coverage from the websites and YouTube pages. So, yeah, I'm definitely still entrenched as far as what's going on with at least the Louisiana team in the West. But clearly when they play some other teams, you keep an eye out on that too.
Yes, sir. Well, with everything and not trying to be premature, the East is almost about signed, sealed, and delivered, but there's still so much to be figured out on that west side of things. And when you look at the run that Southern has ahead of them, and from firsthand that Baton Rouge, Columbia, and Gold can be a very testy group to try to please, huh?
Oh, absolutely. And it's been like that for years. I mean, even Coach Richardson will tell you that, hey, he had some people trying to speak in his ear from time to time, and you can ask Carlos Brown about that when he get a chance. But, it's a rabid fan base, and it's always going to continue to be that. And clearly, because of the situations right now, even though they are tied for first in the West Division, Southern fans want to see these results. And when I say results, I'm talking about victories. They want to see championships, and they want to see higher level championships. And really, getting to the SWAC championship is one thing, but winning it is something that has deprived the Jaguar Nation in football for almost a decade now. I mean, it's been 2013 since Coach Odom's last led them to a championship over Jackson out there in Houston. But they've been to the championship game a number of times. They just haven't been able to get over the hump, whether it's facing Alcorn or facing Jackson State in those years in the championship. So, yeah, the fan base, from what I see, or whatever, definitely wants to see more happen. It's just a matter of, can the X's and O's match the Jimmys and Joes and then get W's in the upcoming weeks, which, hey, for Southern, their entire season is really, really in front of them coming up with a game against Texas Southern Saturday, at Alcorn on November the 4th, a place they do not have a lot of luck at over the years, and then Prairie View on November 11th before wrapping up the season on Thanksgiving weekend against Grambling State.
Yeah, and, speaking from a Panthers perspective, I'm feeling just as much as the tension that I guess Baton Rouge will be putting toward their expectations. The Panthers are, in my opinion, in a position where they have to win out. There is no exception to the rule, and they got a very tall order this weekend against FAMU for their homecoming. And the fuel added to the fire a couple of weeks ago, Coach Simmons is on record for saying that he is expecting FAMU and Southern to meet in the championship. Now, some people will say, what's the big harm about that? You being a former player, do you take that personal and have an additional chip added to your shoulder when you hear something like that?
As a former player, yes. Clearly, you'll find any sort of bulletin board material to kind of help motivate you or just to really inspire you on different ways here and there. So, yeah, when you hear a coach say certain things publicly, I'm pretty sure the players pay attention to it. The coaches will probably pay attention to it. They'll probably say something about it, but at the same time, they'll be like, hey, use that as fire, fuel and fire, but also use our motivation tactics along with our preparation to get a W in your upcoming week. So, I feel like it probably is going to be used, but then again, I'm not in those meetings. I'm not in those locker rooms to actually know fully what it is, but I have a feeling it works into some sort of factor one way or the other.
Right. So whether say a pinch of salt or a pound of salt, there's going to be a little twing and a tantalating twist in the taste palates, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, look, when you look at all of this, a lot of people have just recently discovered what we've been knowing for a long time about the Southwestern Athletic Conference, thanks to Deion Sanders, now that he's on at Colorado. But when you have to summarize the Southwestern Athletic Conference, if you could, how would you summarize it from top to bottom?
I think Southwestern Athletic Conference, stands upon some heavy shoulders of great men and women who have basically put this conference into a place of stature, or a place of nostalgia, a place of royalty, and they've been doing it for over 100 years. Granted, Prairie View is really the only original member left of the people who created the SWAC, whatever. But through the years, you've had some great teams, you've had great coaches, you've had great players, and you've had a great amount of success on all ventures, whether it's academic or athletic, through the years for what it makes to be the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I'm just glad, to have been a part of it as a student athlete for 3 years, and then also now working and primarily covering the SWAC for majority of my 14-year sports media career as well. But one good thing about, too, is that, no matter what, I always felt that SWAC is a place that I can always call home, and many other people have called it home as well. There's no experience like a SWAC experience. Now you've got 12 teams, and you go to different places or whatever, and every place is unique. There's a uniqueness about Huntsville, there's a uniqueness about Montgomery, there's a uniqueness about Jackson, a uniqueness about the reservation, Baton Rouge, Pine Bluff, everyone has all their uniqueness because of what the history that they have behind it. Let's not forget, there were many years ago where there were great student athletes that you now see at the Virginia Techs and Alabamas and Auburns and Florida State. They couldn't go to those schools,
Right.
They couldn't go to those schools. So where did they go? They went to schools in the South, like the South, Nike, Jackson State, or Southern, or Texas Southern in the Southwestern Athletic Conference to prosper and make those careers going. Really, when you look back at the history of college football, especially with great black football players, unless you were going to the West Coast with UCLA back when, they had a lot of black players on the football team, including Jackie Robinson, that many people I don't think play college football.
That's right.
You look at it like a team like that, or a team like Michigan State in the 60s that had a starting quarterback, 3 black captains. There weren't too many opportunities for African-American males to play athletics at big major programs. So the SWAC was home, and it continues to be home. I always wonder too, with the change of things, how some big time players I've seen over the years, how would they have looked in a SWAC uniform? But clearly that's if y'all follow me or whatever, how Marvel has the multiverse. I'm pretty sure that's another multiverse somewhere in the world.
No doubt about it. And you know what else is a very beautiful and unique thing? And I'm pretty sure it's established in other conferences, but I'm going to speak, and if you allow me to get personal, on my conference. Mm-hmm. The brotherhood that we have with fellow broadcasters and sports media coverage people, it's like, as you mentioned, one big family. And
agreed.
Yeah, we're going to pull for our prospective universities, but we always pull for each other, especially when we're playing outside of that conference. And I'm still wanting us to get over that hump with that Celebration Bowl, and hopefully this will be the year for the SWAC. But it's just a beautiful setting to be in, and there's not many of us. But what I appreciate is how we embrace one another and help support one another.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we definitely do pull for one another. I think we all work together in collaborations of doing, several things. I think the conversations that many people have with each other, no matter where you cover different games or different teams, I think those conversations continue to just be positive because you can kind of feed off of this or that. I do find it funny when, when I talk and I'm a guest on, some other shows, and at the end they're like, man, Mo, I learned a whole lot or whatever, and I just feel good because I like all I'm doing is just doing my job and just giving you this information. But they're definitely grateful. But then at the same time, I feel the same way when I'll chat with you, or I'll chat with Carlos, I'll chat with Dr. Cavill, and I mean, I know you guys have been doing it much longer than what I have, and you've been able to share a lot of good things. So, yeah,
hey man, don't tell everybody that I'm old. Don't tell everybody that I'm old, man.
Look,
I know I feel it every day.
I'm just gonna say you're a veteran, man.
Well, one thing about it is, for me, it's always about looking to sow seeds into those younger, stronger legs to keep carrying this thing down the road. We were at a unique time and a select time for us to try to piece it and duct tape it together to what we have now. So a lot better environments, a lot better opportunities, and it's the gift that keeps on giving, man. And I'm so proud that you young guys allow an old head like me to hang around from time to time and kick the can around, even though I might sound like an old man, get off my lawn sometime, but I don't mean no harm. I'm just going back and through the process of which we had, because you don't know how to be creative as a broadcaster when you're going through an 0-88 losing streak. You talking about building a deep vocabulary. You talking about entertaining ways to keep people interested. Sometimes you didn't realize if it was just you talking into an empty microphone or one or two were yet holding on. So through those things, you gain an appreciation and you have some empathy with some of the struggling programs, with some of the programs that are doing well, and you have that balance of being that fan, that reporter, that supporter, and then that one who is somewhat of a historical piece of the journey that we've come on.
No, that's totally true. I mean, because I think a lot of people who don't understand how things go in the broadcast world do not see how hard a situation like that was for, the HBCU broadcasters who were in the Houston and surrounding areas when Prairie View was going through that situation. As a matter of fact, I told Dr. Cavill a long time ago, I say a long time ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago or whatever, that quite frankly, I feel like that would be a perfect 30 for 30 on ESPN if they talk and interview the right people.
Right. I can tell you this, Mo. Why we got to let ESPN do it? We can do that.
That's true. That is true too. I guess I'm kind of just speaking more in the general aspect of things, but no.
I got you.
We have people out there that definitely, could do it.
Yes, sir. And so maybe that's a collaboration project that we all might have to put together and come up with it on. What you think about that, man?
I don't think it would be a bad idea.
Okay, look, I know you are an extremely, extremely busy man, and I got one more thing I want to touch on basis with you.
Yes, sir.
Although it's not a Southwestern Athletic Conference concern, it is an HBCU concern and an FCS concern. Eddie George, this past week, has stated some frustration about the lack of attendance, questioning if Tennessee State fans really appreciate football as they profess. And I understand that. We talk about it all the time. If it's not a classic, it's almost like playing hide and go seek, looking for people in the stands.
Yeah.
But there's a dynamic. Yeah, but there's a dynamic, Mo, that I don't think we're really putting legitimacy to, but it's something that we need to evaluate. And there's no saying the same thing that makes you laugh, it's the same thing that'll make you cry. Okay? In the case of Prairie View A&M University as of 2023, data retrieved is stating that for every one male student on the campus of Prairie View, there are 33 females. That, my friends, is an overwhelming hurdle to try to get over. Because even though that female fan, not saying that they don't qualify as a fan, but they are a different type of fan than that of the male gender trying to attend our games. So the code is that we need to try to figure out some type of themes and interests that will not only draw females to the games, but keep them at the games.
You know, Dr. Brent, I never even thought about that, but no, you're absolutely right. The closest thing I've thought about that is nowadays, because there are more options, you know, if you're a student on campus or whatever, besides just going to a game, I feel that, you know, several universities, and Tennessee State can be included in this situation, you know, they need to find other things that are in relation to the game that may, I guess, provide another version of entertainment, or try to, you know, other little initiatives as well, you know, with that situation. And also, too, it is interesting how you mentioned, you know, the dynamics on that, for one, what did you say, one every 33?
Yes, sir.
Golly, that is a huge, you know, number between male and females. I know there are some, and getting away from athletics, I know there are some universities like Southern University in New Orleans. They're trying to do a better job with getting like more male educated teachers into the world, and they are now doing, you know, several different initiatives when it comes to like scholarships for guys who, you know, will want to go into the field of education. I do know that like Southern University in New Orleans was one that was doing that, and there was a few other colleges along the South that were doing, you know, similar things. But when it comes to athletics, I do feel that you do need to kind of find some other things to kind of work out some stuff from an entertainment standpoint at athletic events, you know, giveaways, or just finding different things that really kind of like add to it. Because I mean, even when I can go back and say, you know, I was a student athlete from 2006 to 2008, I still feel during that time we had a lot of kids on campus who were coming to the games because, like, they knew, you know, the game was, you know, like the game was the thing to do. Now, you know, there's just so many more things to do. Like, you know, you can hop on Netflix and watch this movie and do this to kill your time instead of like being a true fan per se. And as far as the words of Eddie George, I mean, look, I feel like this. He does have a point, and the numbers show it, that their fan base is coming out more for HBCU opponents than what they are for the opponents that are in their conference. And I can understand the frustration. I can go a step further. I know he made a comparison to Ohio State, but let's look at it like this. Eddie George, let's be for real. In the era of the late Houston Oilers, early Tennessee Titans era, he's easily a top 5 player for them. Heck, he might be a top 5 player, like in general for all Houston Oilers / Tennessee Titans. So when that dude was running out into, back when they called it Adelphia Coliseum and now Nissan Stadium, that place was packed. He's not used to running out and seeing any source of seats without people in them. He's not used to seeing that. And I get it is a different level, but I'm sure there's a certain part of him personally that's kind of like, oh man, like I'm just not used to not having all this energy surrounding everything. And, you know, it is a tough spot. It definitely is a tough spot. But clearly they've got to have conversation with, you know. Here's my response in summary. Okay, number one, I personally don't think we as FCS, I'm not going to just leave it at HBCUs. I think the venues we're playing in are too large. Okay, that's number one. Number two, get out the OVC. Okay, and number three, stop acting like you better than your other HBCU conference schools.
And I said it. I'm old enough to say what I need to say. Tennessee State, and I have family that went to Tennessee State. I was recruited to go to Tennessee State. It is a unique place. It is a place that is, as my grandma would say, is very high-minded. And sometimes they have a tendency to forget from which they come. And I'll leave it at that.
I got you. No, I got you. I mean, clearly, a lot of comments I've seen on social media when it comes to that. One of the first things they say is, well, maybe they should look into joining the SWAC or look at joining the MEAC and whatnot. And I know it's easy to say that, but there are other logistics to it. I mean, the OVC, recently bumped their exit fee up, which it's a pretty penny. Let's go ahead and just say that. Now, look, if famous alumni Oprah Winfrey wants to come and just drop a check and be like, here you guys go, I have no problem with that either, but clearly that's not happening right then and there. So, it's not an easy thing for them to do. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but clearly, you and I have worked around athletics, and we know that there are some things that take a little bit more time to work up, some things called convincing that you really need to do across the board or whatever or with that. And then the whole either joining the SWAC or joining the MEAC or whatever and stuff. I mean, clearly you just can't up and just do that. You do need to put some prep and some work and, other things of that nature. And I mean, and this is my opinion right here, I do feel that even if they were to consider the SWAC and then talk to Dr. McClellan, McClellan's going to have to probably be like, all right, well, look, I don't want an uneven conference number-wise, so we're going to have to look for somebody else.
Well, I could deal with the uneven conference. You probably just get rid of divisions, okay? But with that being said, this is my opinion. If I'm any SWAC, I can't talk on behalf of the MEAC, but if I'm any SWAC program, I don't even play Tennessee State. Why build their program off of my program's involvement? You don't want to be a part of us? Don't play us. That's just me.
I got you.
I know that's a hard line. Okay,
that is definitely a hard line. But they played Alabama A&M in a number of years too. And these two schools are separated by 90 miles.
Right.
It's actually a shorter distance from Huntsville to Nashville than what it is from Huntsville to Montgomery.
No doubt.
Yep.
But I would still have that hard line. You don't want to be a part of us, so don't be a part of us. That's just like the way I feel with the MEAC when those schools splintered off. Okay, you go ahead on, but we won't fill your calendars no time soon. But that's just me. I'm from St. Louis, and we have a different way of seeing things sometimes. But look, Mo, we have gone, as they say, all around the mulberry bush, and I definitely appreciate it. It was very noteworthy, and I'm glad it took us a while, but it's always good to get back caught up with you. The Magic City Classic, give us some final notes and comments, sir, as we go to wrap this on up.
All right. Well, mainly for the Magic City Classic, when football fans tune in on Saturday, if they're not in Birmingham and want to check it out on ESPN Plus, you're going to see a Legion Field stadium that's going to be packed with at least 60,000 fans, and then they're going to show some of the tailgate folks, and you got about another 50,000 outside or whatever with that. One thing I do love about the Magic City Classic is that there have been years where Alabama A&M and Alabama State has not been good, and the people still show up. So I will say these two fan bases, they definitely come out and show out for their teams no matter what the situation is. And then the years where there's more of an ante, like this year, you're definitely going to see it. And I think overall, it's just going to be a good showing of how things are between these two teams with here in Birmingham. I get a chance to actually chat with both coaches on Wednesday of the Wednesday of the game, Wednesday during the week of the game at the annual press conference, and I know both of them are going to have some slick things to say about each other in that scenario. Look, quick history fact, too. So while last year was the first time that Eddie Robinson and Coach Maynard squared off as head coaches, it was not the first time that they actually met on the field against each other. Coach Maynard actually faced off against Eddie Robinson in the first Heritage Bowl when Alabama played against North Carolina A&T. You know, Eddie Robinson was the reigning SWAC player, defensive player of the year. Coach Manor was a MEAC offensive player of the year, and you know, Alabama State got the best of them on that day. So, a lot of people do not know that. I just have to be Googling. I'm like, wait a second. I asked Coach Manor, like, yeah, man, we faced off against each other, like, but you know, he was like, clearly we really have talked like that, like talking about whatever years. But you know, they do some good things together, and that's one thing I like about this rivalry too. The fact, like, Alabama State and Alabama A&M, they're big rivals. But when it comes to doing a lot of things community-based or HBCU-wise, they do a lot of things to come together. For example, the region's traditional golf tournament, which happens every year at the Greystone Key and Country Club in Hoover, Alabama, just south of Birmingham. Every year for like the last 10 years, they've had a rep from Alabama A&M and Alabama State playing on a team together or whatever. So there's always been a wager between those two head coaches. You know, a few years ago with Coach Manor and Donald Hill-Ely. Now it's Coach Manor and Eddie Robinson. This year, for some reason, they weren't on the same team, and Coach Manor was in the morning, Coach Robinson was the evening. But then Coach Robinson was like, you know, a little thrown off by that, because it was like, well, if no Coach Manor finished before me, he can go out and recruit another kid. Sitting here on the golf course field. So yeah, there's a good camaraderie between these two arch rivals. But man, these fan bases, boy, let's just say that the Bulldogs don't like the Hornets and the Hornets don't like the Bulldogs, and you'll see a lot of that on the trash talking aspect. As far as the game, I really do feel that Alabama State is going to have to find some offense. I think they did a pretty good job by switching quarterbacks, going away from D. Davis and going with the backup QB who started the year and, you know, led them to the big victory over over Jackson State a few weeks ago. So, you know, they found something or whatever with that, which has been pretty good. I just don't know if it's going to, you know, continue, but hopefully in their sake, it does. If you're Alabama A&M, your big thing is that you just want to jump out early, because I don't really think that Damon Stewart, that's the quarterback at Alabama State, who should be starting his transfer from UAB. But I don't think Alabama State's offense is prepared to get into a shootout that Alabama A&M could possibly do, and especially like the type of shootout they could probably do with the grind. But if you're Alabama State, you got to play great defense. That's one thing they have been doing well all season, is playing great defense. And Colton Adams, the big linebacker who still feels he was snubbed for preseason player of the year on the defensive side, he and that defense is going to have something to say against Alabama A&M's offense. So in my picture, I feel that it's going to be a great game. Could be one of those ones that comes down to the end. We definitely do not know, but I'm just grateful that they're going to have great weather this week too. Like, kickoff is still going to be sunny, and even when nightfall comes upon the game in the late third, early fourth quarter, whatever, it's going to be cool but not cold. So those are my things.
Sounds like a good setup, man, for some great football.
Yes, sir.
I got to ask you this, Mo, and I don't want to put you on the spot. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I put you on the spot, right? Which rival, you've been on both sides, on all four sides, well, on three sides of the four, which is more intense, the Grambling Southern rival or this Alabama A&M Alabama State rival?
First of all, let me say this. This is not the first time this question has been asked to me. I'll say this, and this may shock a few people. I think from a fierce standpoint, it may be Alabama State, Alabama A&M. And I say that from a fierce standpoint because, like, there's not too many Bulldogs that I know that like Hornets, and not too many Hornets that like Bulldogs.
Okay.
At least with the Southern Grambling rivalry, I mean, yeah, you know, and I'll go ahead and say we as Southern folks or whatever, we can stand Grambling folks to a certain point, And then you get to Thanksgiving week, it's kind of like, look, you know what, forget y'all now, or whatever and everything. You know,
especially if you eat the last turkey leg, right?
Exactly. You know, it's balls to the wall. It's this and that. But I also think it's more so because, you know, Southern Grambling has a little bit more of a family thing or whatever. Not saying that Alabama State and Alabama A&M don't do it, but I think Southern Grambling has more of that family thing, especially when it goes beyond athletics. For example, when state of Louisiana legislature doesn't go in the favor for higher ed when it comes to Southern and Grambling. If something happens to Southern, we know something's going to happen to Grambling, or vice versa. So I don't think it's as much as it is here in Alabama. Not saying that they don't have their issues too, but I think because Southern and Grambling kind of have that, okay, look, you know, technically I hate you, but I still got your back here and there, whatever. I'll say, you know, the fierceness probably goes to Magic City. But as far as Bayou, I mean, you know, that class clearly, they can talk about it, you know, 365 or whatever with it. From there, I just feel like Bayou just may have the more, not really, I don't want to say rejuvenated, that's not a good word. It's the more well-known rivalry. Let me say it like that.
Right. Well, it was the one that's always got that NBC coverage. I can remember being back in St. Louis as a toddler, not a toddler, yet, you know, growing up. Man, he's like, man, look at this. This is Grambling Southern. And the uniforms used to be so electric, popping out with that color. And you'd be like, wow. Okay. And then as you mature and you become part of the comic, you'd be like, oh, this is not a bad deal neither, man. You know, so I just want to ask you, I always want to ask you that, man, and I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate your time, man. I know that you are a busy man. Let the folks know how they can keep up with you, man, and check out some of your work.
Absolutely. So if you're on X, which formerly used to be known as Twitter, you can follow me at Mo Carter 554. You can also find me at Mo Carter 554 on my professional Facebook page. If you want to check out anything that I do with my television station, just go to fox54.com, click the sports tab, or you can go to Facebook. No, excuse me, not Facebook. You can go to YouTube and type in WZDX, and basically as you start scrolling down, you'll see a bunch of sports-related things that has, you know, my work with that. But besides that, every once in a while, you'll see me do some play-by-play things with Black College Sports Network. Shout out to Dr. Gaville and Roy Evans for making me one of their talents with some of the games, especially for the Miles College game this past week against Allen University that really, really went down to the wire. And you know, who knows? I might be on something else here or there. It depends. But for the main part, social media-wise, at Mo Carter Fox 54 on X and Facebook is where you can primarily find me. But every once in a while, you may see me pop up here, there, and possibly everywhere. Heck, I was on ESPN Plus last year for Miles Tuskegee. That was a phone call that got made like the Monday before the game. So I'm always, you know, good to know that somebody's looking out and making sure that they want to get me on to do this or that.
Well, it sounds absolutely fantastic, my man, and that's why we appreciate you spending time with us here at the Open Mic. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Thank you guys so much. You can follow me on X as well, at the Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.